So very good evening to you. It's 5 to 7. We're starting slightly earlier this evening, but welcome to the D91 webinar series for another Sunday evening. It's the 8th of November today, and we've got a fantastic workshop for you tonight. We're going to be looking at how to close the sale. This is really aimed at VPMs who are struggling to be able to convert guests into brand new members. We're delighted to have a couple of really experienced Toastmasters with us tonight. David Horne's going to start us off. Dan Magill is going to come up with some Q&A bits, and Janik Alkema as well. So we've got a brilliant range of people. Very quickly, just going to go through the housekeeping. This video is being recorded. The edited version will be available probably Tuesday morning, given the speed of my laptop at the moment, but it will be available. I'll send out the links now for those of you who were on earlier webinars. The links are all going to be YouTube videos now, so they're all being archived onto the D91 Toastmasters website, so that we can use them for editing and other purposes. So we'll send you the links out. If you can please put your cameras on, because it's really good for us to be able to see faces. We all know how difficult Zoom is, so if you can have your cameras on, please do. Put any questions you've got in the chat as we go along, and we'll make sure that we ask them all. During the workshops, if you can just have your microphones on mute to stop any background noise, but have them open when we're doing the Q&A. And if you can rename yourselves, if you've not already done that, to put your club name in there as well, so that we've got an idea of whereabouts you are. No, not everybody's in D91, but just rename it so that we can get an idea of what your club is going to be. So as I said, this evening, it's going to be a really interesting webinar. We're going to have lots of information, and I am so looking forward to this. So I'm going to hand you straight over for David. And David, floor is yours. Please start us off.
Thank you, Andy. Closing the sale. Mention the word sales, and most people think of used car lots or double glazing, or those annoying phone calls that you get right in the middle of a family meal. They worry about high pressure tactics and sleazy people trying to close the deal. If you're in sales yourself, often the biggest fear is rejection. If they say no, it means I'm not good enough. For those in club leadership roles, and especially VPMs, it's important to be comfortable with promoting your club to new members. And it's important to be comfortable with how to get them to sign up. Today, fellow Toastmasters, I'd like to share with you a better way to approach closing a sale. I call this better way planting seeds, and it's based on building a relationship with someone. A relationship that might bear fruit today. It might take a little bit longer. In some cases, it won't bear fruit at all. And that's okay. The approach to planting seeds needs you to get comfortable with the subject of 3 questions. What is in my heart that I want to share with the world? Whom would I love to impact, contribute to, and serve? And what would be the most powerful, fun, and useful thing that I could do for them right now? Just take a moment and think about how different it would feel to approach a sales conversation with those 3 questions in mind. What's in my heart? Whom do I want to impact? And what can I do for them? Now let's think about that and those 3 questions from a Toastmasters angle. What's in my heart? Toastmasters is an incredible organization, and it has helped me to become a better leader and a better communicator. So I would share stories of my experiences and my own journey as a Toastmaster. I would talk about the skills that I have learned as a result of being a member. And speaking as a former club president, I would tell the stories of other members who might be similar to the person that I'm talking to. Share with them their journeys. Share with them their experiences. What were they afraid of? What did they achieve? How did they succeed? Make the context real for the other person. Whom would I love to impact? Well, obviously, I'm in a conversation with another person, so it's them that I would want to impact. If it's a guest at an event, just stop for a moment and remember, they are there. They have come to your event for a reason. Whether it's because someone recommended Toastmasters to them or they found it themselves, they have come to learn more. What better way could you impact, contribute to, or serve them than to tell them about Toastmasters? Tell them how being a member helped you, how it helped others. Again, make the context real for them. And finally, what can I do for them? Now, here's an interesting twist on psychology. People hate being sold to, but they love to buy. So instead of thinking, now I must sell them a Toastmasters membership, think, how can I make it easier for them to buy? Tell them about your club and the people who are in it. Tell them what the meetings are like and the social aspects, even during COVID times. Remember, they have come here for a reason, to find out more. Help them find out more. What you can do for them is to help them to reach the decision to join. Those are 3 questions that I use in my business in every sales conversation that I have. And a result of that, it's taken the pressure off of me, because my goal isn't to close the sale. It's to establish a relationship with another person. A relationship that's based upon trust, that's based upon love, and that's based upon service. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to sign up. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to buy what I do. That wouldn't be realistic. What I do isn't for everybody. What Toastmasters isn't for everybody. But for the right people, that approach is so much more comfortable. It changes everything in the context of your conversation, because your goal is not to close the sale. Your goal is to establish a relationship with another person, and the sale follows naturally when it's right. So my recommendation to all club officers and particularly to VPNs is to go into every conversation with a prospective new member with those 3 questions in mind. What's in my heart that I want to share with the world? Whom do I want to impact, contribute to, and serve? And what would be the most powerful, fun, and useful thing to do for them? I promise you, this will change the nature of the conversations that you have with people. And it could change the very fabric of your club for the better. I welcome any questions on this different approach to closing the sale.
David, I've got a question on that. That's fine when you're talking to people who've already come along. But I think some of the difficulties we have are actually getting people to come along. So once they made the commitment to come along to a meeting, they're halfway there. But I think the difficulties many clubs are having is just getting them there in the first instance. How would
So
you?
you're talking about the difference between marketing and sales.
Yes, absolutely.
And my talk was all about
Sales. Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, how can you reach it, and especially in these times because with COVID we're doing everything online.
Yes.
So if I look, so I'm the immediate past president of Trojans, and the new committee have taken a very active approach to looking at what they can do to find new members, and they're doing a lot of outreach. The committee have agreed to allocate a portion of the club's funds to doing some paid for advertising using social media. They have created a newsletter, and in fact, they've reached out to some of the more experienced members of the clubs and asked us to contribute a piece to go into the newsletter that says, here was my Toastmasters journey. What were the circumstances when I joined? What caused me to join and why? And what have I got out of it? And so that creates, in effect, that context that allows people to get those real stories. I think it's really interesting when Rupa first asked me to do this talk, and she shared with me some of the official Toastmasters stuff on closing the sale, and I looked at it and I just thought, this is just far too salesy.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's wrong, but I think there's a better way for people to approach it. And, particularly in an organization that's run by volunteers.
Yes.
It's wrong to force people into situations that they're uncomfortable with. And what I like about my approach to sales is that it's actually not about an approach to sales. It's an approach that hopefully gets someone to get comfortable to buy.
Yes.
And if they don't get comfortable to buy, that's okay too.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks so much. Chris Soprano has a question for you.
Hi, thank you. That was very, very good. I'm a career salesman / broker, and actually I'll probably take some of your tips into my professional life.
I'll take a commission from you.
The frustration that I have, not only in my my professional career, but I'm the president of Holborn Speakers, is there's one thing to be able to, so people come to the meeting, you have a good meeting, then you follow up, and generally follow up with email to kind of get across that passion that you're talking about. And my thing about sales, it's a transference of belief that besides emails, do you think there's, maybe this is a marketing question as well, but
hello, talk to people.
Okay, so I guess maybe this is open to everybody. Do we feel comfortable actually calling people on the phone? And
well, we're Toastmasters. If we're not comfortable talking to people, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and talk to people. It's so interesting. And again, coming back to the earlier question about the marketing kind of thing, a lot of people sort of think, oh, well, I'll put a message out on social media and everyone will see it. Well, no, they won't, because there's so much out there that gets filtered. And yeah, once you've got a dialogue going with someone, pick up the phone and talk to them.
Good idea.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. Any more questions for David? If we can keep these on a sales rather than a marketing theme, that would be appreciated, because we're just conscious that
I can answer marketing questions as well. I got 10 minutes.
So Susan in the chat says that D91 Club, we find offering free trainings outside club times converts guests to members.
Great. Wonderful. So there's a benefit for people. There's something that you can offer that serves them, that gives them value. So perfect. What a wonderful idea.
Yeah. And of course, this is an added value service itself on the webinars. We've had a whole range of different webinars, both club focused and personal focused as well. We've had how to earn money from speaking. We've had planning. We've done webinars on energy and resilience, as well as club, obviously sales. We've done marketing. We've done Trying to think what else we've done in terms of the club ones. Rupert, help me out with this one. Speedcraft. So we the whole point about these webinars is that we're also providing added value in exactly the way that Susan's talking about.
And I think especially in these COVID times, adding added value is utterly critical, because there is, you know, there's so much free content out there now. There's so much stuff going on. You know, you could easily just sit there all day and consume free content. And so you need to focus, you know, come back to that, you know, what's the value that I can contribute to someone? How can I serve someone else? How can I help them?
Yeah. Just in there's a follow-up question there from Susan, who said, are these all on the D91 YouTube channel? They're unlisted videos at the moment. There is a reason behind that, because we don't want to kind of cannibalize our audience. But if there's something specific you want on there, then drop me a line and I can send you the link for that.
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah. Sorry, Brian.
Can I say something, please?
Yeah.
I don't know if this what we do at our club at King Speakers, because it's stammer or have social anxiety.
Yep.
And what our president does is at the end of the meeting, she asks anyone that wants to come into anyone wants to come into the, like, obviously they might not want to speak over the Zoom, so they speak privately or separately by themselves.
Yep. Thank you for that, Brian. I think that's you know, anything we can do to help guests feel at ease and comfortable.
Well, yeah, and you know, bear in mind when guests come in, and I'm using this mainly from the experience at my own club, and you know, at the end of our we always do a sort of we do the prepared speeches and then a break and then table topics, and at the end of the prepared speeches, we always ask the guests to stand up or on Zoom to identify themselves and just say why they're there, and so many people are there either because someone at their work or a friend has recommended it to them, or they've got something coming up where they might need to do a public speak. You know, we had a guy join our club. He became our treasurer because he joined our club because he was getting married and he knew he had to give the groom's speech. And there are so many real life examples of people and why they come to clubs. And it's so important to use those real life examples, you know, because there's so many parallels.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Emily from Ludlow Speakers has said how to get over the Zoom negative. And this is something that a lot of people are finding at the moment. And that sigh said it all there, David.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you know, welcome to 2020. Do what you can to break it up. You know, there are features in Zoom. I'm by no means an expert, but I do have someone in my team who is. There are, you know, different features. There's polls that you can get people involved in. There's the chat functionality. There's breakout rooms. I'm running a conference in about 2.5 weeks' time. And we're actually doing it, it's a 4-hour conference. And so we're doing 2 speakers and then we're doing a 5-minute speed networking where we're just going to randomly break people up into breakout sessions and they can meet people. Yep. Just something to break up the monotony, because yeah, for so many of us these days, life is spent on Zoom and you know, computers getting overheated and all that because the graphics cards are being tested, and yeah, it's a relevant question.
I think for me, it's been a few members who have wanted to join us, and that's their biggest thing. They spent all day on Zoom, and when they come to us of an evening, it's like another 2 hours on Zoom.
Yep.
It's how to say to them, but it's still beneficial. We do the breakout rooms, we do the polls, we do all of that. It's just not quite enough, I feel, at times. I was just seeing if there was anything else.
I empathize completely with you. You know, over the last 6 months, I've spent more time on Zoom than I could have ever imagined. And yet, you know, it's funny. Imagine what lockdown would have been like if we didn't have Zoom. But yeah, it's true. It's true. I don't have an answer to that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. We've got another 5 minutes or so with David, so we just want to quickly rattle through some of these questions. Alistair says, do clubs have a minimum amount of times people can come along as a guest, or is it open-ended?
So I can only speak from my club's perspective. We say to people that you're welcome to come anytime as a guest. When I was the president of my club, if anybody came for 3 times or more and hadn't signed up, I would have a word with them and say, you know, hey, you know, it's all well and good, but you're taking the mick.
Yeah. I know certainly at my club, we had somebody that came as a guest on and off for about a year and brought pretty much her entire family with her at one point or another. And she's now on our committee and fantastic, you know, but it was well worth waiting for on that one. Nikki from Meraki says, a bit of reverse psychology. Any tips on influencing salespeople? As a corporate club, we noticed that our sales team are the most difficult ones to convert due to, quote, lack of time and other priorities.
Okay, so I'll come back to my questions. What's in my heart that I would love to share the world? Whom would I love to impact, contribute to, and serve? So think about them in their context. They're making up an excuse saying they're busy. You need to be able to demonstrate to them how they might learn skills that could improve their own careers, that could improve the way they communicate with potential customers, that could improve their ability to close the sale and earn more commission.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Thank you, David.
Pleasure.
Julia says, which club should make the call to a guest that is visiting X amount of clubs and online clubs?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so Julia said, which club should make the call to a guest? So if they're visiting multiple clubs, which club should be making that call, or should it be all the clubs?
It should be all the clubs. It's open for anyone to make the effort. You know, if someone's going around to 5 or 6 clubs, I would hope they're being pitched by 5 or 6 clubs to join them.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, oh, well, this is mine because I went to this club first kind of thing. Well, no, I mean, and again, if you think about it in the context of serving them, maybe they've gone to 5 or 6 clubs because they haven't found the one that feels right yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you know, obviously the benefits of, you know, you pitching first is that, you know, you're potentially going to get that member to come and join your club rather than somebody else's.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for that. Are there any more questions? We can probably do one more question before David needs to leave.
Can I just ask, sorry, with regards, I just wanted to know if there are any other clubs that do a quick physical warm-up for a meeting. So before your meeting greet, like you do kind of like a face
like
rub,
jump up and down kind of thing?
Jump up and, yeah, and also just after the break, I was just kind of wondering, just trying to think about the Zoom thingy. So I just wondered if any other groups, that I take it not from that tumbleweed silence.
No, it sounds like a great idea.
Thanks, okay.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, Susan says we do a warm question.
I think the point from Ludlow speakers was more like a physical, you know,
yeah.
Right, let's get up and down and, you know, get.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was at a conference and he said that people's attention span is inversely proportionate to the square of the flow of blood to their bottom.
All that jumping up and down sounds far too energetic for me. David, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. I'm sorry I can't stay, but yeah, it was my bad with the family commitment. So Thanks so
Absolutely.
much. I hope everybody enjoyed that, and I look forward to catching up. And yeah, thank you so much. Cheerio.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
So we've got, yeah, round of applause, David, before he goes. And Dan and Janet, would you like to step forward? So Dan Magill and Janet Alkema are with us as well. So we're going to still explore for the next few minutes a bit more about closing the sale and about getting more members on board. Who
Yeah,
wants to
well,
start?
I'm quite happy to start.
Fantastic.
Then just to say thanks very much for inviting me to come along, Rupa. I'm VPM of Foreign Speakers. And I first went to a Toastmasters meeting in 1994 in Johannesburg. Then for various reasons, put that on hold, came back to UK, and in 2012, decided to go down to Foreign Speakers. But I had already made up my mind that I wanted to join. But nobody asked me if I wanted to join. I loved the meeting. And then they said, oh, come back and see us next. Yes, I went back the next time. I actually had to ask somebody, where do I sign up? Because that had been my intention. Now, to my way of thinking, actually, just ask them. How many people does the president in the break or at the end say, if you would like to, please speak to our VPM? I'd like comments too, because I find that when people are there, we can capture their email addresses. How do people do that when we're on a Zoom meeting without saying, please put your email address in the chat, which everybody has obviously access to? And that's just a general question. What do other people do?
We have a Google Form guest book.
Okay, that's good. But you obviously have to give them access to that to fill in.
Yes, we put it in the chat. We send it to them during the meeting.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's a good idea. Thank you. And the other thing, at Foreign Speakers, I'm really proud. We have enrolled 7 new members this year. Now, 3 of them have been coming since February. And I was quite interested in the answer to how many times can you invite them to join. We had said, come as many times as you like. And as VPM, I would say to them, it's lovely to see you here. Thank you very much for coming. Please feel free to come along next time. Now, these 3 particular people, they kept coming back. And the committee decided, the new committee decided, no, 3 times is enough because they're taking up the space for other people. And I would then write to these 3 people and say, look, it's been lovely to see you, but you can only take part in table topics. You would get so much more out of the meetings if you enrolled. And actually all 3 of them did immediately. So very often it is just a question of nurturing them, keeping in touch, encouraging them, and then just saying they will get more out of it. There again, it's like what David said, what is best for them? Yes, they can participate, but how much better to go onto the program if they were full participants? And the third thing I say before I hand over to Dan is just be enthusiastic. I love Toastmasters and I tell everybody about Toastmasters. And in point of fact, I've had one person, she's joined Barking Speakers because I was so enthusiastic about it. And she was saying that she gets lonely, not enough people to speak to. So I said, well, you should try going to Toastmasters Club. And she did. And she said, I've joined Barking. It's fabulous. I don't know if anybody here, I think it's Division K. I have no idea about it, but she has enjoyed joining. And in fact, somebody else went to Hammersmith, one of the Hammersmith speakers, purely because I was excited about it, enthusiastic. And that, as David said, it's what's in your heart. I know what Foreign Speakers has done for me. I have got involved. I've got back so much more. And I just tell everybody about Toastmasters. And if they join, that's great. So that would be my advice. Just be enthusiastic about it. I'm going to stop talking now because I could carry on talking. Not before I went to Foreign Speakers, mind you. I said, now you can't stop me talking about Toastmasters. I'm going to hand over to Dan. Dan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. It's okay. Give me a second.
Yep, starting to come through.
That coming through, good. Yeah, so Rupert asked me to come. I'm the president of Society Speakers in London. I've been the president since January, and we've had some success with membership, I suppose. So I thought, well, Rupert asked me to come along and speak a little bit about it today. So that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. So as I say, I'm Society Speakers President, and this is where we were in June. So I've been a member for a few years, but I wasn't on the committee last year. And when we got to the end of June, various problems during the year, obviously the biggest one being the switch online, but we also didn't have a venue, and the club wasn't in the best state through no fault of anybody's. It just wasn't, and we only had 18 members, and at least half of those members hadn't come along to an online meeting, and it was kind of obvious that when we got to September, it was very unlikely that you know, at least 9 of those members were going to join again. We had been given the Distinguished Club, but it was only 5 of the 10 goals, so quite low really compared to obviously what's achievable there. And we didn't have a venue. We'd lost our venue kind of at the start of the Toastmaster year last year. We'd had a couple of different places where we'd come and gone from and hadn't been able to stay at. And that meant that we just weren't really able to grow last year. And then once we went online, that was an even bigger struggle then with only having that limited amount of people in the club. So I came in as president in July. I didn't come in and say, right, let's try and, you know, go for more members. Let's try and grow this. We just got together as a committee and just came up with some ideas that we thought would help move the club forward. And so here we are a few months later. We've now got 24 active members. Some of those members that hadn't been coming, we encouraged to come back, and they did and renewed. We've had 9 brand new members since July, which is, you know, really, we think is excellent. We've won the Smedley Award, the 80/20 Award, which were great kind of motivators for us in terms of, you know, having that to aim for. And we only got 5 DCP points in the whole of last year, but we're already on 6 for this year. So it has been a really, really great start to the year. And so I thought I'd just talk a little bit about what we have done, and you know, some of it might be just down to luck, but here's some of the things we've done, and there might be some things for you to take away. So firstly, I think, you know, kind of David mentioned it a little bit, don't put pressure on guests to join. I know when I first went along to a club 3 years ago, it was a club that you know was doing well, and guests would come along and we'd see what happened, and then at the end we were told, you know, if we'd like to join, here's, you know, we can ask for a form. We were encouraged to go and visit other clubs first, that kind of thing. It was just so relaxed, and that didn't make me feel like I was being sold to. And I think I've noticed, particularly since we've gone online, and clubs are kind of that bit more desperate to get members, that's changed a little bit, and there is pressure, and it's not necessarily a kind of, you know, a salesman pressure. It's just you know, you might over involve a guest. You might ask a guest to talk more than you would normally, which kind of might make them back off a little bit. There's just things that I've seen in other clubs where that pressure is just a little too much, and even if, you know, you haven't had a new member for a couple of months and you are really keen and somebody turns up, I think just being aware to keep that pressure off. Just do what you would normally have done when the club was doing well, and maybe invite them to give a table topic. That's what we've done, and it's gone really well. Again, I think this has already come up, show off your club identity. So we're in the online world now, but we've still got, most clubs will have, unless you've chartered recently, we've still got all that history of the club. And when you go to our website or our meetup site or Eventbrite, you'll see all these pictures of our club and our club's members out socializing, and you kind of after drinks, after a meeting, in the meeting, having fun, having themed meetings, you know, Halloween and all that, and just together as a group. And I think even though we've been online for 6 months, and we're probably going to be online for another 6, I think people are kind of craving that interaction. And even though they'll see those pictures and know, okay, that's not what I'm going to an online meeting, they'll still be kind of attracted to that, and will be, I think, more likely to go along to visit your club than maybe one that doesn't show any of that offline side to how things were before. And again, that showed in the amount of guests we're getting in meetings. It's I mean, we've had up to over 10 anyway in one single meeting, and they come through Meetup and they come through Eventbrite where these images are, and I just think it is really strong and helps to show off the club. So anything you can do to show off your club identity, unless you haven't got a good club identity, and then don't do that one. Okay. workshop series. So this was something we started again in July. We've been trying to do it once a month. So the good thing about this online kind of arena is that you don't have to stick rigidly to your twice a month meetings, and we've started putting in an extra one every month, which is as easy as sending out a Zoom link. And we try to get speakers to come along and give more of a 15-20 minute type talk, a little bit like this, but more kind of less workshop, more kind of inspirational talk in a way, I suppose. So we've had talks on humor. We had the second place world champion Linda Marie Miller came along and gave us a talk last month, and we try and have 3 in each meeting, and we've been trying to have them. So yeah, there'll be one talk that's kind of quite geared towards speakers, but people who've been in Toastmasters for a long time, so we'll get something out of it. And then things more along kind of, you're new to speaking, you're afraid of speaking. We get so many guests coming for that reason, virtually all guests. So we try to have something within each of those workshop sessions that is going to be geared towards each different type of group you might have in the meeting, rather than just maybe having one workshop on one theme throughout. And that's worked really well. Our last one had over 100 people in it. I think we got up to 105. And yeah, they've just gone really, really well. And we have had 2 or 3 of those new members who have just come specifically for a workshop, probably with no intention of joining Toastmasters, but they've seen what it is. And we obviously speak at the end about what we do, and come next week for a regular meeting and you'll see how that works. And it really has attracted more people. It might be more than 3 out of the 9 that have come via that route, actually. Push new members. Again, I know when I first went to Toastmasters and I got asked to give a table topic, we've all been in that position when we first go along, and I was so terrified and I really didn't want to do it, and I didn't think I was going to do it. And then somebody got up before me, another guest, and he got up and he looked more terrified than I did, and he kind of mumbled his way through it and did well, but he was clearly nervous, and it was clearly the first time he'd ever done it. And that just gave me so much more confidence to think, okay, the worst case scenario, it'll be a bit worse than that. But it's this isn't all expert speakers that I'm going to go up and kind of, make a bit of a show of myself. And I think it's remembering that in meetings. So you want to push new members for their own reasons to go on and develop. But also within each meeting, I think if you can have brand new members just taking as many of the roles as possible, if your club's geared towards growing, if you've got members, and then you might want to concentrate more on the experienced ones. But if we are talking about growing, then when you get new members, just push them and get them involved with each meeting. And I think new members attract new members more than existing members, and experienced members will attract new members. For me personally, that was the way it is, and that's what I see. And again, I think that was part of the reason of what worked well for us in the summer. We got 2 or 3 new members. We got them onto the agenda. We got them given their icebreakers, even things. I know some clubs don't like you to do Toastmaster or Evaluator until you've done a certain amount of speeches or been there a certain amount of time. But we don't do that. We push people, and if someone's ready, they'll say yes, and if they're not ready, they'll say no, and that's fine. But I just think then a new guest will come, and they'll be looking to see people who are kind of around about their level. And if you can have as much of that as possible, huge advantage. And finally, something we've really concentrated on is moving fast. Again, it's been mentioned a little bit earlier, but if somebody does come to a meeting and they are interested, then our vice president of membership is getting in touch with them quickly, not pushing them, not pressuring them, but making sure that if they ask a question, it's answered quickly. When I quite regularly get the messages through from TMI about people that might be interested, and again, it's just replying almost instantaneously, because if you don't at the moment online, then people aren't just going to the club that's a mile down the road. They can go to 100 different clubs, and if you take a few days to reply to a message, they've probably gone somewhere else. So I think that's helped us as well. We really are staying in constant touch with prospective new members without pressuring. So that was it. That's what we've done. We don't pressure. We show off what we do, and certainly what we did before going online. We've run workshops. We try and push new members, and we keep in communication and move fast with that. Thank you.
Dan, thank you very much indeed for that. That was really good. I think that the message that's come across tonight, very loud and clear from both yourself and from David, is don't pressure. I think, there's ways of being able to sell to people without pressuring them. And I think that is certainly the way that we need to focus that on Toastmasters. Someone from Whitney Speakers, I'm assuming it's Mary, has said, how do you market the workshop? I know you mentioned it briefly. Can you just go over that bit, please? Dan?
Sorry, did you ask me something? Sorry.
Yeah, Mary from Whitney Speakers says, how do you market the workshop? I know you briefly sort of mentioned it during your speech.
Yeah, I think one thing that does help us, which maybe isn't so good for others, is that we are a Central London club, and I think that many more people are living in Central London and looking for things that are happening in London. And I know Meetup and Eventbrite don't work so well outside of London, so we are lucky with that. But yeah, we have it on Eventbrite. The workshops go on Eventbrite, and we'll send out the details to kind of all our members and ask them to pass it on. But normally, and in the WhatsApp groups for Toastmasters as well, the GE group, and if you're anything like me, you've probably got about 20 different WhatsApp groups for Toastmasters. So we just put the link in that, and the tickets go very, very quickly, especially as they're free. And if you can get some good kind of recognized speakers, again, as we've been lucky to get, then yeah, it's a really good way of doing it.
Cool, thank you very much for that. Cindy from Lloyds Bank, what would you say to a guest who might only be interested in the workshops rather than being interested in the other activities?
Well, I suppose at the workshops, we have so many people there that the guests that are only interested in that, we wouldn't particularly hear from. We don't, throughout the workshops, we'll have somebody who's sat in the chat and probably after each speaker, we'll put our information and say, if you're interested in coming to a regular meeting, then get in touch and with the information when the next meeting is. And then the people who are interested will come along. Yeah, I think in an event that's kind of that big with so much going on, it's not really possible to kind of find the people that aren't interested and push them. But if they aren't interested, then I mean that's something with me. I know a lot when I was involved with starting a new club a couple of years ago, and we'd go out putting flyers around and posters up everywhere. But really, I think with Toastmasters, people have to come to it themselves. And yeah, you need to make people as aware as possible. But I think it's kind of a decision they make themselves, and they'll say, okay, I need to work on my public speaking. I'm going to search for somewhere. And at that point, you need to be there for them to find. But I don't find it's that easy to kind of push people into it.
Cool. Thank you for that. Susan from Tube Talk says, where do you get your speakers from? So I guess it's about how you source your workshop hosts.
Yeah, I do far too much Toastmasters since going online. I go to a lot of different clubs, and I just happened to ask if I could speak at one in somewhere in America in summer, and the lady that ended up finishing second in the world was there practicing her speech for the world finals the following week, and I gave a speech, and luckily she enjoyed that and spoke to me about that, and then there was that connection. And then a similar thing happened with the Table Topics champion in Canada that I got to know and speak to. So it's kind of making the personal connections is how it's worked for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you can always speak to people. Everyone who's in Toastmasters knows people who know people who know people. So there's always a way of finding people. And if not, just do something yourself. I don't think sometimes we do enough ourselves. I did one of the workshops over the summer on humor, and it went okay, I think. So, I mean, nobody laughed, but it went okay. So yeah, just push your own members out. And that's another thing. The workshops that have 3 people in them, we'll always try and have at least one of our own members, because it helps their growth then as well. And it's a big thing to go and do a 20-minute presentation or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think certainly with me trying to put this webinar series together, it's been going to either friends within Toastmasters or contacts within Toastmasters that I've built up over the last 5 years to be able to say, you know, would you be interested, or do you know somebody? I've just sent a text to somebody tonight in my club saying, you know, how can I get so and so to come and do a webinar for us? I don't have his direct contact details, but I know somebody that does. So, you know, Susan's also said about the D91 Speakers Bureau. So again, that's another great source for those of you who don't know about the Speakers Bureau. It's being run by Sam Warner, who most people in the district know. And Sam is effectively coordinating speakers and trainers within the district. And if you go to the D91 website, which is d91toastmasters.org.uk, you can have a look at the Speakers Bureau information. And each speaker's given a star rating, which doesn't reflect their quality or their performance. It simply designates what level they've got to in terms of their progress in terms of the Toastmasters framework. So if they've done speaker to trainer, if they've done a area contest, if they've done a district webinar, that kind of thing. But go and have a look at that. I don't know if there are any spaces left on the speaker to trainer course in November, but there will be in January. So if you're interested in being part of the Speakers Bureau, speak to Sam Warner, and again, you know, use that directory to get ideas, to get inspiration. There's some really good people on there, and certainly some I think there will go-to people on there, absolutely. So thank you very much for that. Chris Holborn's got his hand up again. Chris?
Actually, yeah, this is for Dan. Dan, thank you for that fantastic presentation. To be honest, I'm a little bit jealous of the all those new members you have, so well done on that. Actually, the one thing I wanted to query was pushing new members hard, where I actually had a little bit of a bad experience with that, where I think I pushed somebody into a role too quickly, and they weren't going to come back. And I've kind of reversed it to the point actually today where we had a new member. I had a half-hour orientation online to get him up to speed. For your new members, what do you do as far as orientation is concerned? Because obviously traditionally at meetings, new members speak to people before, afterwards, in the bar after, you know, the networking break at the bar afterwards. Is there anything special you do in a Zoom world to get people up to speed as far as an orientation is concerned?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, similar to what you've said you did there. And yeah, as you say, there's less opportunity to kind of, well, there's no opportunity to see people in the real world at the moment. And yeah, so well, the new members that we've had, I think we've been trying to get the agenda set further in advance than we normally would in the real world, where it might just be a day or two before, so that these new members who are taking on roles for the first time will know that it's coming, you know, at least a couple of weeks down the line. And then, I mean, we have a really good mentoring thing that we've set up too, and that's running well. So they'll speak to the mentors about it. But also, I've just been offering with all of them, and pretty much all of them have taken it up, just to get on Zoom with them for 10, 15, well, however long they need, really, a day or two before our meeting, and just go through, especially with things like Timekeeper, so that you can send them the backgrounds and you can get into a Zoom meeting with them, even if there's only two of you, and they can run through the backgrounds and practice that. And the same for all of it, really. And that seems to have also with a speech, if you can, you know, I offer to let people practice speeches or whatever they want to do, or they might do that with the mentor. But yeah, there's probably more opportunity to do those things than before, even though you can't do them in the same way. It's far easier to just jump on a Zoom with someone for 15 minutes than it would have been to go meet them in the past. So.
Yes, and can I add to that, Dan? I quite agree. And as VPM, when I write back, we've obviously got this onboarding system where they advise me that the money's gone through. Obviously, then the VPE will add them to EasySpeak. But then I send them a standard letter with the old icebreaker and a few other things. And I put in a time with them within the next couple of days. So I will spend about an hour with them on Zoom. And then I undertake, because we're short of maybe more experienced speakers, I undertake to speak to them at least once a fortnight. And I also find that with Zoom, it's a lot easier because I've saved so much time on traveling. So this past week, I've had 12 calls with mentors, and that's been 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening, when for me, I'm on my own, I don't have a family, but I've been able to help them do that. And yes, it's not all our new members, but some previous members had not had sufficient onboarding or mentoring. So I've got a sort of a charter of mentorship with what I do. I will book up the next call with them, and I go through, I say I expect them to do a speech or a role at every meeting. And so when they do that, an Easy Speak is great for booking it up in advance, because it also gives for that description of the role. And I find that we have got 4 speakers for the next 3 meetings, and they are competing with each other to get meetings in the agenda up to January. And I think this is fantastic. And we had 2 people who joined. They both, our last 3 members did their icebreaker at the very next meeting. And 2 of them, one is doing the grammarian role and one's doing the topics master, because the warm-up had been taken, and that would be the traditional one that we would give to new members. So there's a little bit of competition in there, but it's great. And I have found 2 of the people I was mentoring, they said, right, this is great. Now I know what to do. And then my one mentee, he said, yeah, but I need to request a speech. And I've just worked out how to do a quick video clip on Loom. Zoom is not great because it doesn't always show you when you change the screen, but Loom is great. It's free. 5 minutes is the maximum. And I think it took me 5 minutes to do a quick request a speech in Easy Speak. I did it, saved it, sent it to Tom. He said, great, perfect, did it. Thank you very much indeed. And so, yeah, the speed of getting back to help them, because while they've got that enthusiasm, you have to maintain that momentum. And you have to be there to help them do the login when the Easy Speak doesn't work, for example. So yeah, mentoring every time, as much as you can, as often as you can.
Yeah, I think that's actually something we haven't really talked about this evening, is the benefits of mentoring. And certainly within Pathways, that's now gone from being almost an afterthought to really being at the front and center of everything that we're doing. So for those of you who haven't completed your level 2 yet, there is Introduction to Pathways mentoring on there. And that's a really important module to take. It's really important that people understand the benefits of mentoring. And even somebody, I've been in Toastmasters 5 years. I'm very lucky that I have sort of 2 or 3 mentors that I can use. I can go to at any point, and I still need that reassurance. I still need that guidance from senior people. And you know, anybody who's been in Toastmasters 6 months and says, I don't need a mentor, you're fooling yourself, because mentoring is so important. And again, it's one of these added values. It's, you know, part of your membership. It's part of the Toastmasters ecosystem. But it's such an important part. Dan, do you have a mentor?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, a few. And yeah, I suppose I've spoken for a few years now. It might be at that point where some people would feel they didn't need one anymore. But no, definitely I've got 2 or 3. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's, again, we've talked about the webinars. We've talked about the sort of social aspects as well, you know, being on Zoom as well, and mentoring, I think, are 3 huge added value bits that we can really be promoting to our guests to convert them to members, especially for those people who are really struggling with their public speaking, and that's why they've come to us. The mentoring is even more important than somebody that's already got that experience and that confidence to do it. So again, really been pushing that. So we've got 5-10 minutes or so left. Are there any more questions for either Janet or for Dan? Don't all rush at once.
I'll ask another one.
Go on, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious about the mentoring program. I don't think it's something that we've done very well at Holborn Speakers. how do people actually do it at other clubs? Do they have 3 mentors that 20 club members and people have multiple one? Is there one mentor for each other mentee? I mean, what's the combination?
Janet, do you want to take this one?
Well, sorry, Chris was asking about other clubs. Chris, we haven't had a proper system in place. And if they have been, they've really fallen apart. So I must confess, I've set up this charter for what our mentors should be doing. And as and when we have, and I have undertaken to take the mentees through until they finish their level 2. So they will have the option to do that mentoring program. And I say that if I can get my mentees up to a stage when they in turn can mentor, then I fulfilled my duties as a mentor. So that helps now to perpetuate the system. But yes, we do have 1 or 2 experienced speakers, but I'm a little bit fussy and I will check up that they are having regular calls with them. But I'm not quite sure what other clubs do. That's just what I've worked out for foreigner speakers.
Thanks very much for that. Yeah, I think it's with the mentoring, it still is a bit hit and miss. But I think given another couple of years, once people have gone through the mentoring program pathways, I think things will start to be a lot more cohesive and a lot more user friendly. Alistair from Voice of Wales says, would you share the charter? This would be really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I could send it to you, Andy. Why don't I just send it to you? I mean, when I say it's a charter, it is a very much a simple, okay, my name's Janet Alkema, this is what I do. And I've just gone through, this is what I expect myself to do in order to get results. And this is what I expect the mentors to do for their mentees. I would say that when I go through the roles with them, I do send them, for example, a template for the general evaluator role, because it's something I have created. I send them a template for the evaluation role. I know there's lots of help online, and I even send them a sample script to use, because I think they really do need nurturing and helping. So I will send it to you, and yes, I can see Ian, I will send it to you. In fact, if I'm really clever, I'll put it in the chat while you're all finishing talking. No challenge.
Thank you, Janet. Mohammed's got his hand up. Mohammed, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just thanks, Sandy. It's just going back on the mentoring thing, and that is the way we did it in the past. Is there's a guy who is in charge of mentoring, and he actually is like a matchmaker, and then that matchmaker will know who is advanced and who isn't. And what they do basically, they ask just simple question. Can you take another one with you? So if you are doing 2 and then you say yes, then you 3, 4, 5. Sometimes even if there's an advanced speaker and that advanced speaker says no, 2 is my limit, then we just respect that. But if there is somebody who started 6 months ago and he's willing to take 5, are you sure you want to take another one? and they will say yes. Then we just match them up, and then with that we give them the license to say, can I pull out from this mentor and choose somebody else? And it's completely fine. So yeah, that's what we did, and it worked out. And so long as they start cycling on their own, then you can let go of the saddle.
Great analogy. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you for that, Mohammed. Elizabeth Jordan, I believe you had your hand up earlier.
Can I just say something, please?
Brian, can we just go to Elizabeth first, and then I'll come back to you.
Thanks, Andy. I wanted to respond to Chris because he wanted a view from a different club. I'm from Hertfordshire Speakers in D91, and the way we have handled mentoring is to appoint a mentoring champion. And that mentoring champion helps to manage all newcomers and make sure they're matched with a mentor, and that mentor helps them through pathways from level 1 to level 2. And at level 2, they have an option to continue with their mentor, or they can choose another mentor. But what it means is that the new person comes in, has the mentor from the beginning, who can help them with pathways. And just to add to what Andy said, I've done the Pathways mentoring program, and I would really highly recommend it. It does take mentoring to a different level and integrates very, very nicely with Pathways. So I would, yeah, that's what we do in Hertfordshire Speakers, and it works well. So get a mentoring champion for the club.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. Just to say, for those people who are interested in doing mentoring at a slightly higher level, there is something called the Odyssey Project, which is a pan-European, it's actually global Toastmasters mentoring initiative. So you basically get mentees from around the world. I've got a former district governor in America and somebody in Malaysia, I think, at the moment. So if you're interested in that, have a look on Facebook under the Odyssey Project, and they're really, really worth it if you want to stretch your mentoring skills. Brian, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just going to say what we do at King Speakers for the mentoring program. When people join, we tell them that they can have a mentor, and then we normally pick someone, but we say to them, it's up to you if you want to pick someone to be your mentor. And if that person is free or they can do it, they do it. And then we just, but one thing that I say to people is, if for some reason that person, say you don't get on, or there's something that don't be offended if that person doesn't want you as a mentor. Don't be offended by that you're not, that you can't do what that person wants, because that person can move on to someone else, and there will always be someone else that you can mentor as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I think that's, really valid. It's not a personal slight on you if they're not interested. Yeah. It's just it's a personality thing. We will be revisiting mentoring as a webinar, hopefully beginning of next year. I'm trying to get that lined up at the moment, so that should be a really good, interesting 60 minutes there. I'm looking to try and get that sorted for beginning to middle of February if I can. So that's something for people to look forward to. Venice, good evening. Your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Janet from Farnham. I really like, I like everyone's input on the idea of mentoring, but I really like Janet's, the way she handled it. And I'm actually thinking that perhaps because she doesn't have a lot of individuals who are at that stage to mentor other newcomers, but I really am going to take that away, because at Bedford Speakers, we have a buddy system, because we haven't actually sort of met that level yet where we have many members to assign mentoring mentees. But even if one person can yes, I'm hiding my camera. Even if one person champion that and just help some individuals through, maybe that will encourage and inspire them to stay, because it will sort of create a bit of connection and bonding, and that's what we do at the moment. But I really like Janet's idea. Thank you very much, Janet.
Thank you for that, Venice. So it's coming up to a minute or so before 8 o'clock here in the UK. Just final word, if we can, from our Club Growth Director, Rupa, who has pulled this together with her sort of Club Growth hat on. Rupa, do you want to just say a final couple of words?
Yeah, apart from thanking our speakers, the reason the three were picked is all three club representatives have had considerable amount of new members this Toastmasters year. But just to wrap up on some of the comments that were made, as Andy said, mentoring is going to be its own webinar very soon. But I wanted to just point out that mentoring was also Ralph Smedley's vision for the organisation. And I'm not sure how many people realise, but the minute you hit member in Club Central, the club officer or the club has committed to mentoring to that member. All of us have had some sort of commitment to receive mentoring. We call this webinar Closing the Sale, but really it's the start of a journey. So I'm really glad that Dan, Janet and David have taken that approach about the soft rather than the hard. One of the reasons I immediately thought of David when we were putting this together was 4.5 years ago, we both joined around the same time. And to Venice's point, we created a buddy system. We became each other's buddies. Sometimes we overcomplicate the mentoring process. Just start. And sometimes it is a case of just helping somebody for their first speech or bouncing off at each other like what's going on in Farnham Speakers. The final point, no hard sell, but we genuinely believe in this virtual environment, people are forgetting to ask guests to join. So that's all I'm going to invite you to do. Remember to ask. Back over to you, Andy. Thank you.
Lovely, Rupa, thank you very much indeed for that. And once again, can we just have a quick round of applause, please, for Janet and for Dan, because I think they've been fantastic this evening. And again, an absolute goldmine of knowledge there. So thank you very much to the both of you. Next week, slightly different change of pace. Sam Warner and myself will be hosting a area director huddle. So for area directors out there who just want to drop in and have a chat, and this is an informal, won't be recorded session where we just allow area directors to ask questions, go through any concerns they have, and generally, a bit of a clinic if people are struggling. So if you're interested or you think your area director could be interested in that, then please sign up. It is on the webinar website. Everything that you need to know is on D91 Toastmasters.org.uk. If you'd like to run a webinar next year, then please do. We've got some free slots coming up from the end of February. So if you want to come up with an idea, then please email me. My email address is webinar@d91toastmasters.org.uk. So thank you very much indeed. It's been another fantastic Sunday session. This video will be available in the next couple of days if you want to go back through and pick up any bits. Once again, my thanks to all the presenters, and from me, Andy Hesse, have a very good week.